Last Friday, June 26th, both Platts and Argus announced they were going to launch reporting on the daily price of a new crude benchmark called American GulfCoast Select, or AGS. Joining us today, we're happy to welcome Mr. Harold Hamm, the founder and executive chairman of Continental Resources. We know one of America's largest independent oil producers. He's here to talk to us more about that. We're also joined by my colleague, Leslie Haines. She's executive editor at Oil and Gas Investor and Hart Energy. Thank you both for being here. Mr. Hamm, I'd like to start off by asking you about being a driving force in working together to make this happen. Please explain what it actually is.
Okay, well, thanks for inviting me here today, and thank Oil and Gas Investor Magazine for all it does for the industry. It's tremendous, and this story needs to be told first of all to the industry, and y'all are the perfect ones to do it. So, just glad to be with you. And American GulfCoast Select is a new benchmark. And as you mentioned, both Platts and Argus put out a new marker for AGS last week. And that was tremendous. That's the first step. There's a lot to do yet to make it a very liquid market and all that kind of business. But, that's ahead of us. But it's a great first step. It seems like always we have to come up to a crisis moment before you get anything done, and certainly that's what happened here. We all recall Dark Monday, as we call it, or Black Monday, perhaps in April on April 20th, when we had a negative price of minus $37.43. So from that point, we started looking for alternatives. And certainly this is a great alternative to that. It needed to happen a very long time. And finally it's taken place. So this is the first huge step in a process that could bring about the market for a waterborne barrel for our type of oil from America. We're the one to start all this. We started it with horizontal drilling and created a tremendous renaissance in America for new crude and natural gas to the market, bring that to the market. So a great deal of increased supply, and that started the whole process, and why we need this benchmark today. It follows on with what we did with lifting the ban for exports in America. And that too was brought on by horizontal drilling and what we did, American Energy Renaissance. So this is a great first step. And last week was so tremendous that both Argus and Platts came out and created these markers out there in the market. And so we can proceed from there. We've got a lot of heavy lifting to do. It takes the entire industry community to get this done. So it's a first step, but it's a great first step. We're so pleased.
Thank you, Harold. You say you have a long way to go yet. Who are the people who are going to work with you to try to increase liquidity on this new benchmark crude AGS to get more transparency into the market?
Well, it takes, all the refiners, the people that buy the oil, they're the most important players. So all those markets that's out there, that's tremendously important, but it's everybody. It's all the infrastructure. If you would have tried to do this a lot earlier, we probably couldn't have gotten it done because we didn't have the volume necessary. Today, week over week, you've got about 3.3 million barrels a day that's exported. So that's good volume. And so all those cargoes that's going, wherever they're going, that's a market that's out there. So, and, the supply's there, demand's there. So that's the first step. So, but you had to have the infrastructure. You had to have the dock space. You had to have all the terminals to export. You had to have the pipeline infrastructure, first of all, to move it to the Gulf. And so that's what we have today. A lot of the oil that we're talking about, it never goes to Cushing. You know, it never sees Cushing. From the Permian, from the Eagle Ford, for instance, a lot of our Bakken oil, it never sees Cushing. So we're already getting it to the Gulf Coast. So this is a great concept. Every major market in the world, just about, is on the water. They're waterborne barrels. Cushing was the only one that's a kind of a landlocked market, and it's just not efficient, and it's not what we need today. Both Platts and Argus, they use their own methodology to set these. So we think it will become a superior market to WTI and Cushing, just because of the location where it's at geographically on the water, a waterborne barrel. And let's just take some of the situation that was there. Speculators speculate that Cushing was going to fill their storage, for in April 21st, 22nd, whatever, in the near future there. And so that was the thought, that they were going to fill that storage and have nowhere to go and all that. Well, it hadn't filled yet, but anyway, it's a finite amount of storage. When you have ships waiting there, as long as you have those ships to load those cargoes, you have an infinite amount of storage, plus all the other storage that exists in the Houston area, Gulf Coast areas. It's just tremendous compared to other places. So you have an infinite amount of storage. You have all those things. So, and that's what it takes. When you look around the world, all the major markets, they're on the water, waterborne barrels.
Tell us briefly about the group that you spearheaded or drove to create this, to make this happen. How many producers are involved, for example?
Well, you look at, like I said, we wanted the large companies, and we've got several that's in there. But basically, this is what we did. We set up American GulfCoast Select benchmark for the best practices group. So a best practices association. So that's what we set up when we started putting that together. And we've got an organization built around that. So it's everybody. We tend to think of producers as the all most important people. But here, we say they're the tail of the dog. They're kind of the last ones you have to have. You have to have everybody else. You've got to have refining, you got to have midstream, you've got to have all of the others, the market makers. And they're very important to, make sure you've got a liquid market that you mentioned earlier. That's so important. But, if that market exists, all of the producers are going to be there. So we say they're the tail of the dog, very important tail. They're the ones that created this, okay? With all the innovation technology that they brought about with horizontal drilling and create this whole thing, that brought us all this oil that we can produce out of tight rock, that we're producing in the Permian, the Bakken, Eagle Ford. So they're important, but here they're the tail of the dog. They're not going to sell to an inferior market.
Do you think this is going to eventually be traded on the futures market? When do you think that might happen?
Well, certainly we do. We're talking to folks. For instance, we're talking to ICE, and they're the ones that's a platform with Brent's, and it's been a very successful platform. So we've been in close communication with them and others, but it's we want somebody that can run a platform and do it extremely well to make sure that we have the very best market. So, we want the best practices and put in place to create this.
Right. Well, how will this specifically help Continental? You're a big oil producer. How is this going to help you or change what you do?
Well, I've done a lot of work for the industry, and it's just kind of like lifting the band. At that time, we weren't we didn't have any oil on the Gulf Coast, but certainly knew that had to happen to uplift the entire industry, and the same thing here. But I think with all producers, Continental and everybody else included, you've got to get your oil to the best market and to a viable market, and people have been doing that with the infrastructure that's been built. DAPL pipeline, for instance, and others that that's where they wind up. In their nexus is the Gulf Coast. So that's what people have been planning for and doing that for a long time. So we've worked on a lot of important issues over the past several years. Reversal Seaway Pipeline, worked on that. That was a huge thing that happened, that had to happen to make this possible. So this has actually been going on a very long time to get to this point. But I think this is a great day for producers. This is a great new beginning. So, with all the gloom doom that's out there, this is probably the bright spot today. And, I'm just happy to play a very small part in it.
And we're thankful to hear that and to have you as an advocate for the industry as well, Mr. Hamm. As a final question for you, with being such a strong leader and advocate for our industry, do you have any final thoughts on this topic, but also of the path forward as we move forward from here, getting through the rest of 2020 into 2021?
I do. We've watched demand come back, and it's been slow to do so, but it will. And, it takes a lot of faith to be in this industry. And you have to maintain that faith. And it's pretty tough to do. And got a pandemic going on like COVID-19. People can't even meet with each other. Okay, so it's tough to have faith during this, but it will turn around. It is turning around. You just have to be very conscious of the market and not oversupply it and not glut it. And so people are doing that. Our company has done that. And so it's some of these things take a while, but it's usually during situations like this that you find opportunity. And that's what we tell our people. Look for opportunity and grasp opportunity. Don't give up. We're all at work here at Continental. And, so I'm glad to be doing what I said that we brought a CEO in. I wasn't stepping down, I was stepping up, but it gives me time to do more of this for the industry, and I'm glad to be here doing my part. And this is going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. It's got to be done right. It's got to be done with everybody in the whole oil industry community to make this happen. The market makers are very important, but they're going to be there at the end of the day. We just have to have a very liquid market created that's very efficient and it works well for the industry. It's good to be with you all today.
We really appreciate your time. I think I can speak for Leslie and myself and Hart Energy. We appreciate the time you've taken over the years and this time today as well. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
For more Hart Energy videos, follow our social media channels.